So, there I was, a little snot-nosed brat in the second grade playing on the playground with the rest of my friends, and one of them came up to me and said, "Hey, have you ever played Final Fantasy VII? My father just bought it and I've been having a lot of fun." Not knowing what in the world that was, I asked, "What is it?" Well, one thing led to the next. Eventually, he ended up lending me the game and I was addicted and played it every single day. And that is how I proceeded to fail the second grade. Final Fantasy VII started my love for the RPG genre, so much so that during my teenage years I went back and played a decent catalog of Super Nintendo RPGs. So naturally, as an adult, I've continued to play them and I've witnessed the change in the genre, saw the leap into 3D with big cinematics and cutscenes, noticed a shift from strictly turn-based combats to more action-oriented combat, and many other hybrid systems that would introduce both action and turn-based meshed together in games like Xenogears and Final Fantasy XIII even. But then in 2018, a very interesting game was released that immediately caught my attention. Something unexpected, almost like a love letter to the RPG genre from the SNES. That game was Octopath Traveler. Octopath is undoubtedly the catalyst that reignited my love for the RPG genre. Sure, I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake, Persona 5, Dragon Quest XI, but there was something very special about blending 2D SNES style pixel art and modern day 3D effects and lighting. I immediately gravitated to this game, I wouldn't stop talking about it to my friends, and like all amazing games, it fell in my backlog of unfinished games. So now, fast forward 2 years and it's December of 2020. I had just finished developing Penguin Siege and felt confident to tackle my next big challenge, making my first commercial game. This was the birth of the project that today I call Project Bloom. Project Bloom had its humble roots as a tactical RPG similar to Fire Emblem, and then it turned into a Mega Man Battle Network thing, and then a plain old turn-based RPG. But today, the game is very much a mix between action and turn-based combat. It was a decision I made pretty recently, so it still needs more time to cook, but I feel very confident with this direction and should have something to share within about a few weeks. As for the moment-to-moment gameplay, originally players would progress through the randomly generated dungeon, very similar to standard RPGs. There would have been treasure chests, secret rooms, secret bosses, and enemies would walk around the environment and seamlessly transition into battle, similar to games like Chrono Trigger. But after about 4 weeks of creating that system, I realized although it was a cool idea, it was too ambitious and I had to remind myself that I was just a solo dev. I'd spend an eternity just getting the world to function properly. In the end, I settled for pre-generated branching paths similar to games like One Step from Eden and Slay the Spire. With all that said, I had a very small problem with the game at that time, and it was very personal to me, and I took it upon myself to improve it as much as I could, and it was that the game looked like absolute shit. I know it's super early in the game's life cycle to worry so much about things like visuals, but at the time it was super important to me because I needed a vision for the game. Something to inspire me to keep going and know that there was really a light at the end of this tunnel. And so I went back, I looked for references from old RPGs from different eras, not really finding anything that gave me great inspiration. Then one day I was cleaning my room when I realized that I have been trolling this entire time. I owned a copy of a game I claimed to be one of the greatest revolutions in the modern RPG visuals, and that was Octopath Traveler. I immediately fell in love with the game again. The visuals were as striking as I remembered, and I knew this was the direction I wanted to take my game. I seriously spent the next 3 to 4 months studying and dissecting what makes this game visually work. It wasn't as simple as adding 2D sprites in a 3D environment. That's just the surface level. The way they handle lighting, particle effects, normal maps, and even the way they model their 3D environments and the way they texture it all come together in harmony to create a very pleasant visual experience. The devs were so dedicated that even their 2D sprites have normal maps. Basically, in oversimplified terms, a normal map is just a way to fake depth in a texture by manipulating the way light affects the surface, making 2D textures pop and be perceived as 3D. And so believe it or not, it might be obvious, but it took me a while to realize that that was even what they were doing. And so over the next few months, I had multiple phases of trial and error, but eventually managed to find a style that I was truly happy to move forward with. It took me a while to come to terms with the style because at first I felt like I was just copying Octopath, and I felt everyone would just dismiss the game as an Octopath clone. But I think over time, I started to develop my own style and my own techniques to make the world work, which really differentiates it from that game, and I think that's okay. And so the history of Project Bloom's battle system is a long one. I spent a significant amount of time playing with system mechanics such as a combo system similar to Guild Wars 2's combo field. I also experimented with an elemental reaction system similar to games like Genshin Impact, where you could combine different elements to have different combos. If there's a known popular combat system out there, I've probably studied it for this game. However, most recently I came to the realization that I wanted to lean more into the action side of the RPG genre. Mainly because the ideas I had for the combat system and more so unit designs were far better suited for games that allowed multiple actions per turn. I also wanted to add layers of interactiveness to the combat system. So I turned to games like Indivisible, Final Fantasy XIII, and Paper Mario for inspiration. I think the core idea I have cooking now can be something very fun and exciting, but I just need a little bit more time before I can share it with people. As of today, most of my time is spent working on a lot of the back-end systems for the game, namely the combat system, menu functionality, and laying out the majority of the bare-bones components required for the game to even work. I want to grind out this stuff now while I have the drive because it's really not that fun. For example, people underestimate the work that really goes behind making a functional UI. Shoutouts to anyone who has created a functional RPG menu. But once I get this stuff out the way, I'll get back to working on art and game design and the fun stuff that people like to see. I wanted to have a demo by the end of the summer, but unfortunately the last 3 months have been really hectic, and so I've been backed up a little bit. But hopefully a little bit after summer, I should have something, even just a prototype, ready to share with everyone. With all that said, if you'd like to follow me in this journey, I'd appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to do my best to post at least bi-weekly starting now, and I'm going to post different kinds of content, not just devlogs or me just talking. I'm interested in doing maybe design reviews. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.